You're listening to the Educated Cowgirl Podcast, Episode 8. Hey Cowgirls, it feels so good to finally be back with y'all on the pod. As many of you have probably also done, I went to see the new Barbie movie starring Margot Robbie, and I came away with so many thoughts and opinions about this beautifully made movie. It has made me look more closely at the women in the equine industry and how they are seen and represented in the horse world, professionally speaking. In today's episode, I will be discussing 5 points of how I think the Barbie movie and the professional women in the industry parallel each other. How the world sees us versus how we should be seen and taken seriously as business professionals in whatever horse business we own and or operate. I feel very passionate about what I have to say on this topic and how I feel women are seen in the industry. I don't want to make this a super long intro and just get right into the heart of the episode, so without further ado, let's get into the episode. Hey, and welcome to the Educated Cowgirl Podcast, hosted by yours truly. My name is Abby Carpenter, and I am a cowgirl and equestrian through and through. I started this podcast wanting to make more of an impact in the equine industry. That's why I am making it my mission to help promote the industry to the public through sharing my love for horses through education and bringing other experts and professionals onto the podcast with me to discuss important topics that impact the horse community. So whether you are a crazy horse lady like me, want to learn more about horses, or want to learn more about the industry, you've come to the right place. On this podcast, we will be talking about ownership, horsemanship, fitness, faith, breeds, and so much more. We believe that it doesn't matter what type of saddle you ride in or the breed of horse you may ride. We all contribute to this community to make it great, and that there is always something to learn from the back of your horse. So grab a coffee and get ready to take some notes, and let's get started. This is the Educated Cowgirl Podcast. I think movies can bring us so much more than a form of entertainment. They can also bring us inspiration and spark up conversations that need to be had, which is exactly what I found after I went to see the Barbie movie. And I reflected on it and the story it told about how women in the world are seen and how it is important to advocate for little girls in the world to lean into the message Barbie has been saying since she was created, and in the movie about enjoying the beauty of being a woman and growing up, but also dreaming big to achieve whatever they set their minds to, whether it's in the horse industry or not. In the movie, Barbie travels to the real world from Barbie Land, and she sees that women are not treated on the same level as men, and they are almost treated like how Ken is in Barbie Land, and are not given the same respect as the hardworking, strong professionals that women are. And if you take a close look at women working in our industry, from rodeo and every part of the horse world, the amount of women who are running businesses, head trainers, and so on, is not equal to how men are represented professionally in the industry, especially when you look at the top level. Yes, the numbers are starting to grow and change as the times do, but it is still a lot of work for women to just get a seat at the table. And if you notice, the only times that I have seen where women's voices are actually heard, or at least in my personal views, is when women are communicating with each other. As I have seen many men talk over us with our ideas. And I'm not saying all men are like that, but we have to be able to work together as men and women for a society to succeed and grow as shown in the movie. Now, I know what you're going to say, but Abby, I went to college where most of the equine programs and classes were mostly female, and lesson programs, most of the riding students are girls. Yes, I will agree with you on that. But the amount of women who actually graduate college and become trainers or big names in the industry are far less represented than how men are seen and taken seriously in the industry. One example I can think of before I get into the 5 points I will discuss in this episode is this year's Belmont Stakes, where we finally had a female horse trainer win the Belmont Stakes for the very first time. This horse race has been running since the late 1800s, and it wasn't until 2023 that a woman trainer won. That doesn't seem right to me. And she probably has been working with horses and been in the racing world professionally for years before this. And until this year, I actually had not heard her name mentioned or knew who she was until she won the race. And yet, I have heard male racehorse trainers' names numerous times in the media. Representation matters for women to be seen and get the recognition they have worked so hard to achieve. We deserve to be seen equally to men in terms of the work we do to promote and grow the equine industry as a whole. Another short example is if you were to attend the NRHA Futurity in the fall and walk down the main barn of stalls. You can probably count more barn names that have male trainers than women who have just as talented of horses. Female equine professionals should be seen as more than just horse girls, as a lot of people have termed us online, or horse-obsessed girls. We may have started out that way, but as men grew into professionals, so did we. Why is it okay for men to be seen one way and women are seen as horse crazy? And the only way we can be taken seriously is if we almost become tough on the outside and tomboy and not lean into the beauty of being a woman and still be professional and not be sexualized by men. I have come up with 5 points about women in the equine industry that I realized after watching the Barbie movie, and I hope you will listen to me with an open mind and open your ears to hear what I am saying. And although I love to hear your feedback as that opens up conversation, any negative comments you may think of, please keep them to yourself, as they are unnecessary and only bring you down. And it is important to lift each other up. So, number 1, we are more than our appearance. Without spoiling too much, if you haven't seen the movie yet, when Barbie first enters the real world, she soon is confronted by men who only take her for how she looks on the outside. And she's confused, as in Barbie Land, women, or the Barbies, are respected for their talents and brains, and showing how society has miscommunicated the message of Barbie to young girls. You don't know how many comments I have seen on fellow female equestrian social media pages and videos that are inappropriate and catcall women when the video is just of a girl jumping over fences, roping, or whatever. For many years, as we grow as women, we have been seen by society and in many industries for how we look and our attractiveness and our abilities to have children and be married off. Now, the last part of that is starting to change as the times do. But we actually have a voice and want to be seen as professionals and a woman, and not be sexualized for how we look, and instead for what is in our minds, for our talents, and for our four-legged athletes. I love to see equine photographers showcase not only the beauty of cowgirls and girls and horses, but also showing them as strong women in their fields. Sometimes it can be nice to be noticed for our appearance, don't get me wrong, but we are so much more than that. Men are seen as attractive, but they're also heard and seen for what is in their brains and ideas. We want equal visibility to be heard and taken seriously for our ideas and not be overshadowed. Number 2, representation matters. As I mentioned earlier, it is important that men and women are represented and respected equally as professionals in the world in order for both of us to succeed in this industry. For those saying that we want more than men, that could not be further from the truth. I love when I see young boys riding in the show ring and taking lessons. That's so awesome. all we want as women is to be seen for our ideas and be equal in how we are respected in our professions. Whether it's in the arena, in our business success, or whatever. If you look at the number of female top-level professional riders/trainers as compared to the number of male trainers represented, women are actually more outnumbered and are just now starting to receive the recognition we deserve. If you notice, RFD-TV didn't start a cowgirl channel until the CEO of Cowboy Channel made a couple jokes about it while promoting the NFR. Now, I could be dead wrong that the Cowgirl channel was an idea being proposed before that, but why has it taken us this long to give cowgirls and women professionals this type of outreach? Women have only been seen in the media, or at least in past several years, or heard of unless it's for their outfits, which, don't get me wrong, I think Western fashion is fabulous and helps celebrate women in our industry, but we are known for so much more and are capable of more and are just as strong and businesslike as men. And we can be dressed up and be heard for our words at the same time. I follow many Western fashion influencers, and I love them and what they represent. It seems that we are more seen when women meet together and share ideas, and men don't hear our ideas unless another man says the same thing. Did you know that during the World Wars and cowboys and other men were drafted to fight, that the cowgirls and ranch wives actually ran the ranch, branding, roping, feeding, everything, while the cowboys were gone. And they took care of their kids and the household at the same time. And as soon as the men came home, everything went back to the way it was before, without blinking an eye. Number 3, God called us to fulfill our purpose as a woman. Now, this point is one of the first things I realized after watching the Barbie movie. Being a woman is hard, and we don't have to ask permission to be who we are. God's love shows us that. No matter what the world does to put us in a box, His love is there to free us from the box to be who He loves and wants us to be. If you've already seen the movie, you will understand that reference. To fulfill the purpose God has for us, to be free to spread His message with our talents and gifts. A part of that is through being able to support each other and advocate for others to grow in the passion and dreams God has put on their hearts to achieve, and show young girls that what they can achieve through the power of their faith in something bigger. Number 4. Equine professional pay gap statistics. The statistics do show that the number of female equestrians to male is higher, which we all know, girls and horses just go together. However, when you look at it from a pay rate and professionals, according to zippa.com/equestrianjobs/demographics, women earn 96 cents to every dollar earned by men, which doesn't seem like much, but it still shows a gap between how men and women are seen in the industry. This helps us to show that even though it may seem like the equine industry is dominated by women, we are still being overshadowed by the men in our same fields. There are some people who believe that women are not as strong and tough enough to compete and train at the higher levels. Fortunately, as we start to see things change, like the Cowgirl Channel and other programs like that, are starting to put more women in the spotlight to show young girls that they are capable of being seen as more than just horse-crazy little girls and as smart, driven, professional horsewomen. Number 5, how this will affect my podcast. So, since I started this podcast in February, I have been thinking about the direction I want it to go and my goals for how I want it to grow in the industry and help spread the message. I really want to carve out a niche for not only myself, but how it will help my podcast stand out among the other amazing equine podcasts that promote the industry in different ways. I guess you could say that the final sign to have my podcast being not only about promoting the growth of the industry, but also advocating and supporting women in the industry who are working hard to grow their businesses, training, and making a name for themselves and stand out themselves, was watching the Barbie movie. I feel so excited with how I hope this will grow my podcast and the amazing guests I will have on my podcast and have had on so far. Thank you so much to those of you out there. As I talked with more women in the industry and men who support women in the industry. It's interesting. I never thought that I would get so much inspiration from a movie about a doll representing a woman. But it truly opened my eyes to changes that are still needing to be made in the horse community to grow together and promote the horse. As I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, I feel very passionate and inspired about what I discussed today on this topic. And I could probably say a lot more on the subject and go more in depth, but I don't need to keep you here any longer than I have to. So I will just leave you with this final nugget that is always a good reminder, as I have discussed it before with others on the podcast. In order to see a successful future of the equine industry, we all have to work together to help it grow and thrive for years to come, which takes men and women working together respectfully and representing each other well. No one can do it alone. I would really hope that this episode does not fall on deaf ears, as I think everyone needs to hear the words I said, and I hope you gain something from it and that it inspires you to start your own conversations on this topic. And if you really enjoyed this episode, please screenshot the episode and share it on your Instagram stories and tag me at The Educated Cowgirl. And also, I would love to hear your thoughts on the episode by either commenting on my social media posts or leaving me a review on whichever platform you're listening to this episode on. I will be back soon with another great guest on the next episode. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Educated Cowgirl podcast. I hope you enjoyed it, learned something new, and will come back for more. But for now, stay blessed and ride on, cowgirls.